You're entering the Matt Mayo Experience.
Matt Mayo Experience. Matt Mayo Experience. Matt Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog. Day 2 of 10 days of Masters coverage. If you've been missing out on golf, haven't been paying attention, no worries. We're going player by player. If there's a player you want to hear about immediately, you hit the time codes, because we've time coded every single player we are talking about from Vincerix Golf. It's Matt Gannon. Matt, first time on the show. So happy to have you on.
Yeah, first time on the show, second time we've talked. Happy to be on. Ready to run through the field. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, are you going to lean towards all the TGL guys since you were there covering it every week?
I'm a big cross-off guy, so I'm not sure I've made my decision yet. I know I'm crossing off the LIV guys, not for any reason, but I believe golf betting's hard enough. If you could find a route to cross guys off, take the route. And I'm not saying that they can't win. I'm just gonna go when I do my picks. I'm just gonna say a LIV guy's not gonna win here, so I'm gonna cross them off, and I'm gonna go with PGA guys. Well, it's not a popular take, I know that, but
yeah, you don't think that you don't think that going anti-LIV is a popular take? Come on now.
It's the 1 week a year where you can bet these guys, so I think everyone wants to sprinkle one or two if they can.
I am going to be on a few LIV guys solely because I think they present better betting odds value than basically anyone else.
No, you're literally right. I'm crazy with some of my takes and some of the hills that I live and die on. So, but it's gotten me this far. I'm gonna keep going.
All right, well, we're going to get into it. I want to let everyone know to smash the like and sub to the channel. We're almost at 50K on YouTube. That's great. And I'm giving away $6,000 total. Do you like money? Do you like free money? Well, there are two separate draws you can get into. The first one is a $5,000 trip to Toronto for a Canadian Open experience. There's sweet tickets to Blue Jays in there, airfare, hotels. So if you're in Canada, outside of Ontario, you can get into it thanks to our good friends at coolbet.com. Hit the description. You can find the direct link to opt into that giveaway. Tell your friends about it, because the more people that get into it, the better chance we have to sending people to the British Open in Northern Ireland for Portrush later on this year. So let's make this one super successful. You can also, anyone worldwide, get into a draw for 5 prizes of $200 cash each. It's all in the same link down in the description right now. Please go check that out. But rating and reviewing the podcast, telling some friends and someone to the channel is the best way that you can go about that to get your name in the free draw. Get your ballots in. That's how you're going to do it. Let's go player by player right now. All these odds are supported by our good friends at CoolBet. Scottie Scheffler is up first. Scottie Scheffler is plus 420 to win the Masters this year. Obviously, he's won it 2 of the past 3 years. He comes in with a T2, T20, T11, T3, T25. Obviously, he cut his hand over Christmas, Matt, and he hasn't won since, which is the weirdest part about this, because outside of Hideki, each of the past 5 winners all have a win, at least a win, in the calendar year coming into the Masters, and he does not.
Yeah, I mean, thinking back to his runner-up at Memorial Park last week, how did you view it? Because it seemed like the most relaxed, I don't have anything close to what I have runner-up that he's ever had. I know he had, if you told us that he gained 7 strokes putting, how much are you going to put on him to win last week? Like, it was just incredible. He didn't look great for 72 holes. He had flashes, but I don't know. It's scary, truthfully, because he didn't have anything, and he still finished runner-up.
But he didn't have anything, but he's still the exact same odds that he was at this point last year. And he had, 4 wins coming into it at this point last year? It's not that I don't think that you can win the Masters without winning previously. Obviously, we've seen it done many a times. And he has the required top 10 type of trend line that would still indicate that he can go win this. But there's something, he's not Scottie Scheffler from last year. He's still the best player. I mean, Rory might have a case to be. Rory's been the best player of 2025. If I was saying who's the best player in the world, it's still Scottie Scheffler. But I think that gap has closed so much because there was points for over the last 18 months when he would hit an iron shot. And even if he missed the iron shot, it would be 25 feet left, but exactly hole high every single time. His wedge distribution, his iron distribution is just way off this year. He's coming up short. He's going long, which regular golfers do on the PGA Tour. But that's not what we expect from him.
Yeah, robots don't usually mess up like this much, and this robot is messing up. So we'll see what's going to happen, I guess, going forward. But I'm with you. I don't think he's going – I don't know what you think. I don't think he's going to go back-to-back. I don't think he's going to have his 3rd Masters in 4 years, but he's the rightful favorite for sure. He knows this course. He's got a great caddy who knows this course better than a lot of people. So, yeah, Scottie Scheffler, I think he's a far better DFS play than he is a bet. So probably passing on him. I mean, I'm definitely passing on him in the betting market. I just can't bet a 4-1 golfer. But yeah, Scottie Scheffler, definitely scary.
I think it goes back to what you just said, too. If you could have told me pre-tournament last week in Houston that he was going to gain 7 strokes putting, which was the second best putting performance of his career, and he didn't win, I wouldn't know what was going on.
Yeah, I would have put a lot of money aside to wager that for sure.
And he's the rightful betting favorite in my mind. Obviously, the sports books agree because he's still ahead of Rory on the board right now. But what odds would he have to be to get you to bet him? Would it have to be 10-1?
No, I would say 6.5 to 7, and it's very similar to what we saw last year. I was waiting until he got to that number around Bay Hill, and he finally got to that 7 to 6.5 number at Bay Hill. I pulled the trigger, and it obviously worked, and we haven't seen that since then. But I remember going into the last year, some big name golf, big J media outlets were saying, what would be a rightful betting number for Scottie Scheffler, who couldn't putt at that time? And they were saying like 18 to 20. I'm like, guys, this is just a little far-fetched. I'm saying closer to 7 to 10 is a fair number on Scottie Scheffler. We got there. So I'm saying going forward, like that's my buy number on Scottie when he gets to the 7 number.
All right, number 2 on the betting board right now, the co-favorite, second favorite, however you want to call it, it's Rory. Rory comes in with the best form of anyone in the world right now. He is 7-1 to win the Masters. Do you think those are fair odds, or should he still be this far behind? Should he be higher or lower in your mind?
I think these are fair odds for Rory. I think he's right around where he should be. I'm still thinking around maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, we see some drift on Scottie, maybe towards 5, maybe pushing 5.5, 6, but I don't know. I actually want to ask you your take, like at a macro level, on Rory McIlroy at Augusta National, because everyone has different thoughts on him. Will he do it? Will he won't? Will he won't do it? What do you think about Rory?
I hope he does it. I don't think he's going to do it, but I hope he does it. He's not going to get a cent of my money to win this tournament because no one's ever lost money not betting on Rory at the Masters. But just to put this all behind, I want to see a new phase of Rory. Rory's 35 right now. He has the 4 majors. He hasn't won in 11 years at a major championship. And no matter what else he does, he just won the Players, which is probably the strongest field in golf. It doesn't matter. No one cares that he won the Players. Like, yeah, it's great. Another accomplishment for Rory. Oh, he wins at Pebble Beach against all the best players. Let's see him do it at a major. So it's not even that I want him to get the monkey off his back. As someone who does content, I just want to talk about anything else.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there's obviously the golf course makes sense for Rory. It's Rory McIlroy. He can play anywhere. And I've been in the camp that Rory is going to win at Augusta for a long time, and it clearly hasn't came true. I think I need to see something generational, something phenomenal for me to pull the trigger on Rory when I'm out there at Augusta on Monday, because it's just 1-7-1 and 2 time and time again. And I've been the person to waste my money on Rory at Augusta. I don't know if I could do it again. I really have to see something to get me over the edge.
So you're going to be on the grounds at Augusta National on Monday. Walk me through what that day is going to look like for you.
Yeah, so right now it's Monday. We're looking to add Tuesday. We haven't gotten there that far yet, but it's just like any other Boots week for us at Vincerix. If you're not sure, we go to half the tournaments. We basically are there Monday through Wednesday, Tuesday through Wednesday, depending on the event. And we're scouting the courses, scouting the players, who's going to play well here. It's simply another piece of data to add to the stats. Everything from the stats to what I see to anything you look at, take it with a grain of salt for sure, but it's just another thing to add to the stats, and it's a great piece of information. So we're going to go in, get the reports on the course, get the reports on every single player in the field, who's doing what, how's Xander look, how's Jordan look, what do they need to do better, and then just basically go from there. But I don't really know what to expect in terms of Augusta. Never been there. I'm going to be in awe for a lot of it, but I'm going to have a notepad with me and going to be writing a ton down. So if you have any tips, I would definitely appreciate them. Just being now, I don't know if you've ever been there, but how to navigate Augusta National, how to navigate the city. So I'm excited for sure.
Matt, you think they would let me on the grounds at Augusta National? Come on.
I don't know, dude. You got some pull. I think they let you in if you asked.
Maybe. One day I'll get down there. We'll see how that goes. But you can follow Matt on Twitter at Matt_Gannon_. If you've been to Augusta National, hit him up with where he needs to be, where he needs to go scout for information that you want to use. Matt to your advantage on this one. He's going to be on the grounds. He's going to be seeing the players. So if there's anything that you want to see or are interested in, let Matt know. And I'll put that down in the description right now, along with that $6,000 worth of giveaways that I'm doing. Everyone Anyone in the world can get in
ton
on
of giveaways.
Yeah, I mean, listen, who doesn't want to get in on giveaway? Who doesn't like free money, Matt? Who?
Not many people don't. Not many
Yeah.
people don't. I can assure you that.
Yeah, listen, if you don't like free money, don't smash the like. Hit the down thumbs button on this episode. But if you're a real human person, you smash the like and you get in those giveaways. All right? What do you think that CBS wants from its final 3 groups, let's say? I always like playing this question. I think that Rory winning is the optimal outcome for CBS this time around, and it usually is because it completes the career Grand Slam. He finally gets the ghost of 2010 off his back, although it's been 15 years. It continuously gets brought up. But if we had to program right now what the final 3 groups are going to be for television-wise, for audience interest, what we want to see, like I want to see Akshay and Bobby Mack in the final group. I don't think that's what CBS wants to see.
I'm with you there.
Or anyone else wants to see. But if we were programming this out, let's start with the third to last group on the tee, number 1, Augusta National. Who is playing in that pairing?
Third to last group is going to be Brooks and Ludvig. Okay.
Brooks
Third to last.
and Ludvig. Okay. I actually don't have Brooks as one of my final 6, as weird as that sounds.
Okay. He might be one of the outliers, but I'll say there for Brooks and Ludvig. Who do you have in the third to last?
I have Phil and Scottie.
That checks out.
Like having Phil,
Probably right there.
Having Phil in the mix, like the sentiment is now swinging back on Phil from the mainstream media because I mean, listen, Phil has done a ton for golf by simply going to LIV. As much as people hate LIV, don't want anything to do with it. Listen, I'm not sitting here watching LIV every single week. I don't really care all that much. But the disruption that LIV has made, I do think in the long term is going to benefit the PGA Tour. And if this all is just a bridge, they can merge, and Phil can be a color commentator for us instead of Kevin Kisner, I think it's a big win.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. I think your answer is probably right. My second group, I'd probably go with Rory and Minwoo. I was surprised with what Minwoo did for who knows if the numbers are real from Houston last week, but the amount of pull this guy has, like he was on part of my take a few days ago, getting FaceTime calls from Justin Bieber. People want to see Minwoo.
Okay, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my second group. So I have an open spot here. Because I have my final group. I know exactly what I think the final group should be. I have Spieth in the penultimate group. I need to put someone with Spieth. I was thinking Justin Thomas. No one wants to see Justin Thomas. No one wants to see Morikawa. No one really wants to see Xander. Maybe that is the answer. I was going to say it's probably Ludvig, honestly. You need to get someone young into that mix, create a new star. Obviously, he was in the second to last group at the Masters a year ago. Would you say that Ludvig was besides Billy Horschel maybe, was Ludvig the big winner of TGL in terms of exposure and getting to know this guy?
Yeah, I wish he just played a little more. He had a few matches where he didn't play. Billy was the man. Wyndham also actually did awesome in TGL. And then strangely enough, Justin Thomas. Like Justin Thomas was arguably the best TGL player. He was so clutch all year long, hit great shots, great putts. Like he was a far better putter on turf than he is on any surface on the PGA Tour. So look out. If we get a turf course, Justin Thomas, all the money.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say Justin and those other guys.
Yeah, I'll go Spieth and Ludvig as my penultimate group. So a final group. I wonder if we have one of the same guys in this final group. Who do you have?
Have to. Rory Bryson?
Rory Bryson is the answer.
Yeah, agree.
That would be awesome.
Agree.
And we'll get to Bryson here in a second, but I just don't like him at Augusta. Last year was an outlier.
See, I'm on the opposite. I love Bryson at Augusta, and I said years ago when he was Bryson, but when he started getting big, I'm like Bryson is going to win a Masters before he retires. Now I think the pendulum swung too far, and I think it's like, all right, we're betting Bryson at 15-1. But remember that year when he was like 9-1, the favorite? Was that the COVID year? He was like the favorite.
Yeah,
I believe.
No, Dustin was the favorite that year. Then it was Bryson.
Okay, yeah, I do like Bryson at Augusta, like at a macro level. I'm not going to pull the trigger because of my take I lit off the show with, but I do like Bryson at Augusta. I think the golf course, when he said it's a par 67, I think about it, I'm like, he's not that wrong. I think it makes sense. Like I think it makes sense for his game. But I'm in on Bryson at Augusta. I'm not going to bet it though.
Well, we'll get to him in a second. You can go to the full Bryson DeChambeau breakdown if you want. There's also a free pick attached to him, too, at Underdog using code Mayo. More on that in a second. Jon Rahm is actually up next for us. Rahm is he's so out of sight, out of mind. He's now slipped to 15-1 at Coolbet. And I actually think this, unless he wins LIV Doral, which has not started by the time that we're talking about this, I actually think he might fall to like 20-1. Rahm is the guy at the top of the board whose odds I am the most interested in. So far on LIV, which is impossible really to figure out how meaningful it is, but his results are 5th, 6th, 6th, 2nd. He has not been bad.
Yeah, the dude hasn't finished outside the top 10 in legitimate ages. He just goes along, plays. I think his last outside the top 10 was the Masters last year. I do think that Rahm possibly breaks through in a major this year. He hard mixes, gets in there from early to the end. And yeah, this is a great spot for it. Oh, so you don't really care what he does on LIV, or do you just think the LIV result matters for his number?
I think the result on LIV, it's funny because Jeff and I talked about this on Tuesday.
I heard that conversation. That was hilarious.
I still don't understand what his point was. I think his point was that if Rahm wins, he's more inclined to bet Rahm if he wins at Doral, and if he does poorly, it doesn't matter to him. I think if he wins at Doral, his number probably goes to 12-1. If he has another T4 finish, he probably still goes to 20. If he comes dead last, which is not happening because there's some absolute scrubs on LIV and they're playing Doral, then he would go to like 25-1. But I just like where these odds are at. I don't think that he is that far. He is clearly behind Scottie and Rory. And he probably is on the same level of Rahm on Ludvig and Xander and Morikawa and Thomas and that grouping of guys. But I still think that he just, from my experience and my opinion, I still think he's the best player of all those guys.
I think I agree with you there. It's just he's Jon Rahm, and last year was a bit of a mess in the majors. I know he played all right at the Open, but I think it's just a matter of time before he breaks through yet again. And he hasn't been playing bad golf by any means, so I'm with you on Rahm.
Yeah, and they would get him to 3 majors. It would be a real boost to LIV if one of them was able to win the Masters. And I'm just looking for value in terms of the betting market. Like I said, I'm kind of rooting for Rory or Spieth to win the Masters. I'm not going to bet on either two of those guys to win the Masters. Rahm, if he can drift that 20-1 number, then I feel like he's a legitimate value versus a lot of these guys. Whether 20-1 is actually fair in terms of sheer probability, it's probably not. Does he have a 5% chance of winning? I would actually, you know what? He probably does.
I think 5 is an okay number. Yeah, I think that's fair.
So Jon Rahm. Ludvig is up next. Ludvig is who everyone wants to anoint as the next guy. He made his Masters debut a year ago and handily came in second place. He's currently 15-1 at Coolbet in order to win the Masters. And unless he wins the Valero Texas Open, this number either stays the same or goes up. It's weird when I look at his game because obviously, he's hulking. He just won at Torrey Pines at the Genesis Invitational. He was sick before that. And, the first time he played Torrey, just really crumbled down the wire, had to withdraw from Pebble because of that sickness. And his game on paper, I think, works out really well for Augusta. I do worry about his short game, though. There's not a lot, and it's the same thing I worry about with Bryson, especially on these surfaces. And maybe they can figure it out. But when I think of Ludvig, I don't think of elite short game.
Yeah, and another thing with Ludvig is something I question. I question his strokes gain caddy. He's obviously got Skovron on the bag, but look at what Skovron's done with Ricky in big moments. They won the Players, but they were close in some majors and weren't able to pull through. And we at Vincesaurus, we really factor in strokes gain caddy. Being out there, we see how these guys prep. And Skovron knows what he's doing, obviously. He's a generational guy. He's done it for a while. But I don't know if he has enough to get to the next level. Obviously, they're serious about it. They finished runner-up last year, and they have the game to do it. I think I might agree with you on the short game. And also, how often does a guy go runner-up win? I just don't see that happening. I really don't.
I agree with you. And one of the big through lines that you can look at as indicators, I talked about winning once or twice before the Masters, 3 top 10s earlier on in the season before the Masters. Now, Ludvig obviously has a win, but he also has a missed cut in there. Very rarely do you see a Masters winner. I think Patrick Reed was the last one to do it, that he had missed a cut somewhere in the season. It's hard for some of these guys to miss cuts anymore because they all play in these no-cut events.
Yeah. No, I agree. And Ludvig's... That was tough. And it's weird to see, guys don't come in with this kind of suspect approach play. I really want to see what he does with the irons this week. and then also see what I see from him on site during the week. So we'll see with Ludvig.
I like this SG caddy angle. Who do you think, like top three caddies of guys with the Masters field that you think elevate their game the most? Because we just saw how important it was to Minwoo.
Yeah, well, obviously the best caddy is Ted Scott, and I don't think anyone would argue that statement. He's an elite prepper. Another really, really good caddy, Austin Kaiser. He's in a different world of the way he goes about things. And then Russell Henley's caddy. I do forget his name off the top of my head, but this guy is so dialed with his craft that he knows Russ's game better than anyone. And Russ has no business kind of getting into the mix on the golf courses that he gets into the mix on. He's just so focused on his game plan and exactly what he does to play well at Torrey Pines a few years back in the U.S. Open, to win at Bay Hill, to finish top 4 at the Masters. Those aren't necessarily Russell Henley golf courses. And with his just staying on plane with his game and his skill set, it's been a treat to watch them two work.
Austin Kaiser, by the way, people do not know, Xander Schauffele's caddy coming in. Xander's going to be interesting, and we'll get to him in a second, but we'll talk about Collin Morikawa for the moment, who, by all accounts, is kind of having the best year of anyone. Obviously, he hasn't won, and that's a huge drawback for him. He's now currently 18-1 at Coolbet to win the Masters. He has some great finishes, both at majors and Masters. In the past, his last 3 Masters is 3rd, 10th, and 5th. Obviously, he made that bunker hole out on 18 in the same group as Rory when Rory came 2nd 3 years ago, way behind Scottie Scheffler, which was not even as close as the final score indicated because Scottie 4-putted the 18th hole with like a 6-stroke lead or something like that. Coming in, 10th, 2nd, 17th, 2nd. It's all there for him, except I look at him and I just want to cross his name off because I don't think he's going to win.
I totally agree with you. I think Bryson is is a great golf course for Bryson. Do you think this is a great golf course for Morikawa, even though he has the results? Because I don't. I really don't.
I think that any time, and this is basically any golf course, I think you can get away with not being the longest player off the tee at Augusta. I think it most certainly helps, but this is such a second shot course that his long iron game is so much better than most people's mid iron game that he can more than make up for it with his approach play. And obviously, he is so vastly the most underrated thing about Morikawa over the past 2 years, which is funny because he hasn't won in like 2 years, is that his short game has improved to the point where he's actually really good now. The putting comes and goes, but that comes and goes for 80% of golfers anyway. And he's not historically bad in a lot of times, but his performance in round 4s is pathetic.
Another thing that we can't factor in at Vince Eric's strokes gained dog. It is dropping by the week with Collin Morikawa, and we track this. We have a calculation that tracks it every single week, and we update it. It's tough to see Collin Morikawa strokes gained dog. So, like, who do you trust more on the back 9, tied with a 1-shot lead? Collin Morikawa or Scottie? You're taking Scottie 10 times out of 10. I just don't want to be in that situation. And I just don't think I could pull a trigger around that number.
What happens if we get some sort of bizarro Sunday finish where there's 2 guys who are 5 strokes ahead dueling on the 12th hole, and it's Fleetwood? Well, let's say it's like Fleetwood, Finau, and Collin Morikawa. I mean, Collin Morikawa does have 2 majors, so we can't just pass that up. The thing that people forget about those majors and most of his big wins, no spectators in the stands for any of those. All COVID ones.
Yeah, and that one overseas, we got a few lucky breaks avoiding some bunkers, but we won't talk about that. If there's a outlier finish with Tommy and Collin and like Sungjae, guys who just cannot close, that would be a world where I'd love to watch because it would be some of the greatest television ever. If I had to pick one, it'd probably be Collin because he's done it before, but I wouldn't want to be forcing that into that decision.
Well, we've teased his name a few times, and he is probably the most popular player in the field because it's been a great PR move not being on TV as much. That's what going to LIV does for you. So you get to select what people see. Bryson is up next. Bryson is 19-1 to win the Masters right now. He is not having a great year on LIV. He has been 10th, 20th, 18th, 6th. It's not a great run considering there's only 54 guys on that tour. You know, a 20th and an 18th isn't so great. I did bet him to win Doral this week, so maybe he'll do that, which will give him a lot of juice.
Me too. Let's go.
Coming into the Masters. But his last 3 Masters, 6th last year, then miscut before that. And I do think he was first round leader last year. And here's my take against Bryson. I like Bryson. I think it would be awesome if he won. However, If it was not wet and soggy the first 2 rounds at Augusta, he probably misses the cut again. He does not have the right type of game, I think, for Augusta, especially like if I'm worried about Ludvig around the greens, all 1 iron length Bryson, he just can't, when this place bakes out and he needs to have some real touch, it just does not work for him whatsoever. At Pinehurst, you can bump and run it into that hill and get it to roll up, and Bryson's very underratedly one of the best putters in the world. So he can make those 10-footers, especially when the greens are running pure like they do at U.S. Opens. I think that Bryson should probably be the favorite, along with Scottie, to win both the PGA and U.S. Open basically every year. His game is tailored for that. When I think about Augusta, I think about Phil, live guys, Reed, those type of players who can scramble themselves out of any situation. They can get the ball immediately up. They can get it down. Bryson's style of around the green, I do not think translates well to a baked-out Augusta if it's playing firm.
I 100% agree with you, and he doesn't have that short game. I will say tee to green wise is where I do like him. I think the ball striking and the driver just elevates him so much around Augusta. But no matter who you are, you're going to be forced with those dicey chips. I will say his short game performance around Pinehurst was truly one of the greatest assets of last year. Because I was at Pinehurst. I saw those around the green surfaces. You were just there too.
I was.
You can't even describe.
I played it 2 weeks ago. It took me 3 rounds, and after playing number two just kicked my ass. But even around 10, even around 4, around number 1, around number 8, didn't matter where it was. It's so much different chipping there than anything that I had ever really experienced that it took me 3 or 4 rounds just to figure out, like, oh, here's how I actually have to clip it off the ground. But honestly, you could bump and run all around that place. You cannot do. If people want to check it out, I just interviewed Michael Kim yesterday, and we talked about short game prowess at the Masters. And we talked a little bit about bump and run and how you have to approach your short game here. He's like, Charles Schwartzel did it once. He took out a 7-iron and played the bump and run on number 7 and shipped it in Sunday the year that he won. He's like, basically anyone else, with the way that the grass is mown at Augusta National, it's all back into you. So if you try to play a bump, it just stops the moment it hits. And Bryson's so good at that shot, and he doesn't have that like high 64-degree flopper. I mean, I'm sure he has it, but not to the level of some of the elite short. Like, he doesn't have the same short game as Justin Thomas, for example.
You know that you mentioned that. This is going to be a weird connection that I'm going to try to make right now. The grass around TGL, all of it it's not mown, but it's back into you. Because I was at TGL every single week, and I got to play the simulator. You cannot bump anything at TGL. You have to land everything on the green. So maybe these TGL guys are used to that. And if you have a little Masters course history, it's just a nugget. We'll see. If a TGL guy wins, clip that. But yeah, Bryson, I think the tee to green game outweighs some of it to the point where I think he will win a Masters at some point, but I don't think I can get there at where he is now. And like I said, with the live guys, I'm not betting him. The short game is truly, you're right. It's a lot, and he doesn't have that style of short game to make it happen.
And I do think that Bryson is one of the few players when things start going bad for him, they get really bad.
Yeah, no, you're right. They can get out of hand quick.
So let me ask you this. What do you think is a better bet for Bryson at the Masters? 19-1 to win the Masters, or probably 6.5-1 to miss the cut at the Masters?
I don't think he's going to miss the cut.
I don't think he is either, but he's missed 2 of the past 3.
Do you think it's more likely for him to be within 5 strokes of the lead on Sunday or miss the cut?
5 strokes.
If he's within 5,
I think being within 5 is probably a more probable outcome. But I think when it goes bad for him, it can go really bad. Now, if I see rain in the forecast, and I think it's going to be soggy for at least
rain on Monday.
There's rain on Monday, but do you think that they can suck? They can basically, it rains so much on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday last year, and that's why he was able to go out and shoot 7 He went and attacked pins and got the ball to stop on a dime. You can't do that at Augusta normally if it's baked out. And we do know with the sub-air system that they have, they can suck all the moisture out of that as long as the rain stops at some point. So if it rains Monday and Tuesday, that should be fine as long as it doesn't rain Wednesday and Thursday. It'll play like normal. At least I think it will.
No, you're right. If I had to answer your question, I would go with a 9. I'd rather bet the 19 than bet the 6.5 to 1 to firm the miss the cut, but it's not a strong case, I'll say.
Well, here's a winner that you can get for sure on Bryson. If you go to Underdog right now, you open up the Underdog app, you use code Mayo, you get a deposit bonus of up to $1,000. And for the Masters, a very special free pick in the pick'em game on Bryson DeChambeau. You get to go higher or lower, 0.5 strokes in round 1 of the Masters. That one I think is a guarantee. I think he will have more than 0 strokes in the first round.
I think I agree with you. If he does, if he doesn't, then we have something to talk about. Because if he has, we'll see. Because it can, you never know. You never know.
Yeah, it'll be like that Dustin Johnson situation when he just magically didn't show up to his tee time that year.
That would be some outcome for your promo.
Yeah, I think they would probably refund you on that and give you a new promo. So code Mayo at Underdog right now. And I did a majors draft on Tuesday with Jeff and Tim. And there's majors drafts going on at Underdog right now. A lot of people love Masters pools. I have one of those available in the description if you just want to print it off and bring it into your office. That's a service that I'm providing for free to you. I know people love Masters office pools, but you want to play for some big money? There are 2 big drafts at Underdog right now where you just draft players for the major championships. $50,000 to first prize for one, $40,000 to first prize for another. And the great thing is, when you use code Mayo, you get that deposit bonus of up to $1,000, and you can draft your teams with that bonus money. So you're not even tying up your money for all of major season. Now look, if the money is tied up for all major season, that means you're doing really well, and probably means you're in contention for the top prize, which you probably want to do anyway. But go do that at Underdog right now. I have both of my strategy articles for both of the different contests available in the description right now as a part of the Mayo Media newsletter, all completely free. If you want to check that out, I highly suggest that you do. The only player that we've talked about so far that I'm interested in betting is Jon Rahm. Is that strange?
That's not strange. The number is there, and I think he's due for a major hard mix. I think it's coming.
Xander is up next, fresh off of Marilyn Manson surgery. Got that rib problem. He's got that taken care of now. He came back to TGL. He was fine. He led the Valspar in strokes gained approach, but he is not having a good year. However, he's been 8th and 10th at the Masters the past 2 years. Obviously, he won 2 major championships a year ago. He is currently 20-1 to win the Masters. That's probably the biggest number that you're going to get on him. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe he continues to play poorly and his odds tank throughout the course of the other majors. But 20-1 on Xander to win the Masters, if you believe, Matt, that he is back, is a very good number.
I agree. He's got the course history, but I will say, when you look at Xander Schauffele throughout his entire, at least last few years of his career, it's green across the board. He's one of the few guys, green approach, green everything. It's spotty right now. Obviously, that outlier approach week, could that mean he's back? I think it was a testament to him as a player and the field, why he had his best career approach week. I don't think he's back yet. I don't want Xander. He hasn't gained stroke short game yet this year. I think he still needs some time. He could play well for sure, but I don't think I'm going to get baited into that 20.
Okay, you're not going to get baited into the 20. Are you going to get baited into the 22-1 on Justin Thomas? Would you find it surprising that the guy ends his 3-year win drought at the Masters?
Honestly, I wouldn't find it that surprising. He's almost won a few years ago, but it was never like a hard mix down to the end. I don't think Justin Thomas is playing. I don't think he's came into the Masters playing as good as he had in a long time. So I don't know. I'm really torn on Justin Thomas. I really need to see him. He's striping the irons. He's putting okay. It's the perfect storm for Justin Thomas, and I think the number's fair.
22-1 seems like a good number, and the approach play has been good. It's fallen off a little bit lately, but that kind of does go hand in hand a lot of times when your putting increases. That's just what we normally see as a trend line through. Like when at the Genesis in Phoenix, when he came 9th and 6th this year, 8 strokes gained on approach versus the field, 5 strokes gained. He's either breaking even with the field or he's gaining 2 strokes. When he gained 1 at Bay Hill, he lost 5 strokes putting. The last 2 weeks, the Players and the Valspar, he came 33rd at the Players, rallied to make the cut, tying the course record on the Friday to get there. And then Valspar, he came in second, gagging it down the stretch to Viktor Hovland, who ended up winning. 3 strokes gained on approach, 2 strokes gained on approach, but 5 and 7 on the greens. I would not say that he's probably going to gain 7 strokes putting at the Masters. That's just me, though.
Yeah, I agree. And if he can go into the Augusta with the mentality that my back is against the wall, that I'm on the cut line, then he could win. He starts so many tournaments and has to hit those slinger cuts, do something that's not even possible, do the most crazy, impressive, artisanal shot. And then once he realizes, oh, I'm in trouble, I'll hit a normal shot, I'll hit a stock shot, and then I'm lights out. So if he gets to that mode where he's back against the wall, then he can play well and not trying to be the fancy artist Justin Thomas and impress Tiger. Just be yourself, Justin Thomas, hit normal shots, and you could win any tournament you want.
I find when he plays a bit more free and attacks every single pin, which is usually a big mistake at Augusta, that's actually when he plays his best. And that's probably his biggest drawback at Augusta too, because every other part of his game absolutely checks out. Like when we talk about short game, there might be no one. There's like 5 guys in the world who have his sort of touch, and he just happens to be one of them.
You're right. You're definitely right. No, but I agree with you. When he plays free, he plays good. When he tries to like do the most and hit that perfect shot off of a plank because he wants to start it out here, then that's when he gets in trouble because he wants to make the highlight reel shot. When he just goes at flags, I think he's the best. He's just the best.
If you are looking to really do your research, build your lineups, make some bets, or just try to predict who is going to win, you should be using all of the tools at fantasynational.com right now. The link is in the description. Masters promo going on right now. 20% off all packages, all the stats, all the tools, all the data, and you'll get the amazing PGA Tour Leader app, which is way better than the PGA leaderboard app that they put out, because that's absolute crap. With mine at Fantasy National, you can just have it update in real time. You don't have to open it. You don't have to refresh it, and you can put anyone on the screen at the same time. You don't have to click into individual player, click into play-by-play, none of that stuff. It's all made easy for you, and it updates faster than the PGA app. You will be ahead of the broadcast a lot of the time. FantasyNational.com/Mayo. Obviously, Matt, that's not going to work for the Masters because the Masters has its own stuff, and it has the best app going.
Yeah, the Masters app is a blessing. Every single year, ready to download it, and I'm happy that we have it again.
Here's the problem. It was sneaky kind of not good last year.
I wouldn't say that. What was wrong with it?
It was on delay because, I mean, they set the bar so high for themselves with being able to see every shot. Like, I was able to highlight my favorite players and then switch over to an alternate tab within the app on my phone, and it would update real time with the latest shot that these guys hit. That function did not work very well last year.
I might not have been using it as much as you last year because I did not notice that. Sometimes I will with the My Group feed. It just like lags and repeats itself so much when it runs out of shot, and that annoys me. But outside of that, I love the Masters app.
How do you feel about small sample sizes at the Masters? Because one thing we have at Fantasy National is the last 7 years of strokes gained data from each of the rounds at the Masters. And I'm looking at it right now. Do you know who the number 1 player in this field is around the green on average?
Is it a small sample size guy?
It is. It's only 4 rounds of data.
Oh,
and I think we've both. I think that we've both bet on him to win this year too.
Who is it? I don't know.
It is Akshay. Is number 1.
Akshay. Okay, that makes sense.
So
Akshay, wow, that's actually funny.
Yeah, so Akshay and Nikolai Højgaard are number 1 and 2. Obviously, their first Masters was both last year. So if we're looking at long term, all of the rounds at the Masters with guys with a reasonable sample, Scottie is next. He has 20 rounds, and he is averaging almost a stroke gain per round around the greens, which is insane. Hideki is after that. Austin Eckroat in his 2 rounds. Justin Thomas, Cam Smith, Ben and Jordan Spieth, Russell Henley, Xander. Mike Weir is actually still up there somehow. Harris English, Sungjae, Will Zalatoris, Tommy Fleetwood, Tony Finau, Jason Day, JT Poston, Jon Rahm, Brooks, Shane Lowry, Rory Reed are the very tops of that list of guys gaining at least a quarter stroke per round, which means 1 per event if you make the cut. That leads us to Hideki as the next guy on this list that we're talking about. And his season is so weird right now. He wins the opening event, and he comes into this at the moment just kind of not playing good golf. He can't drive the ball at all. He started to figure that out a little bit at the Players and then hasn't been able to hit an iron in a month. This sort of form, if I looked at it for anyone else, obviously he's won a Masters, he's won this year, he hits the right trend line, but if I don't see something at Valero, he has to be a cross-off in my mind.
I agree. And Hideki is one guy that when people ask me, like I'm going to an event, what do you see from Hideki? I kind of just stopped answering. I stopped looking. I'm like, I don't want to see anything from Hideki because if I see greatness, he'll miss the cut. If I see him looking horrible, he'll win. So he's the hardest golfer to predict. I'd hand up, I don't know how to predict Hideki. So he's just someone that I kind of just stay away from, if I'm being honest. But you're right. The iron play is gone. And if you're Hideki Matsuyama, you can't have a lacking iron game. You got to be able to stripe him. So we need to see something at Valero for sure. But honestly, I want to avoid him at Augusta. I don't even want to see him because I don't want to get anything in my mind like I have to bet Hideki because it won't go well.
He still has the world-class short game, and that is what has really been fueling him in order to even make cuts. And it's not like the results are bad. Like the win at the Century, 16th, 13th, 22nd, 25th, did miss the cut at the Players, has not gained strokes on approach since Phoenix, which was in January, and just started gaining strokes back off the tee, and not with distance, with accuracy, but he's gaining like 5 strokes a week around the greens. Like he's just chipping in every single week, or chipping it to a foot. If a few of those just don't roll in, he's missing significantly more cuts right now.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just, they didn't seem to be all the way there. He didn't look the part around TPC Sawgrass when I was out there. He looked to be disheveled, a little bit injured, but who knows? That's when I see him win. So I just stopped like caring what I see from Hideki, but it's just not good stats-wise either.
Tyrrell Hatton, Mr. LIV himself, Jon Rahm's teammate in Legion 13 on LIV, is up next. He was another one who had a really hot start to the season. He's currently 38-1 to win the Masters. His last 3 Masters, he went 52nd, 34th, and he was T9 a year ago. And he comes in great form in January, both on the DP World Tour, Asian Tour, and LIV, and has been kind of off the rails a little bit here lately on LIV. We'll see if he can get it back together at Doral. This is not a tournament I ever thought Tyrrell Hatton can even sniff a top 10 in, and here he is. He came inside the top 10 last year. I like him at other majors this year. I do not like him here.
Yeah, I think he's good enough to finish inside the top 10, like as just a golfer at a macro level. But I hate that he has the quote saying, "I hate Augusta National. I don't think it's a fair golf course." How could you ever back a golfer who says that? I mean, he'll probably win after he says that. But I agree. I just think there's better spots for Tyrrell, and like even maybe not better numbers, but fine numbers than this 38. I think the number's fair. I won't be going there with Hatton because he just doesn't seem to like the golf course.
A big thing about Masters odds, that unless a number is really big right now before the Monday after the Valero Texas Open, I would just preach to everyone, wait for the odds to readjust, because the futures markets in golf work as a one-way street. They only get worse until the week of the Masters. Then everyone resets. So Hatton right now, if Hatton has a poor finish at LIV Doral and he's 37-1 right now, it wouldn't surprise me to see 50. Him at 65-1 by the time Monday came around.
Yeah. Agree. Yeah, I agree.
So there's a lot of guys that are going to be like that. Even Hovland currently 32-1. Like he might go back up to 50-1 just overnight, just because he's out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, he had one win. He missed every other cut coming in too. Outdoor golf season is almost here, but is your swing ready? With 126 X-Golf locations across 38 states, it's never been easier to dial in your swing year-round. I can speak to this. Going to the simulators all winter long, especially the good ones. You can go to crappy simulators. You don't want to go there. You want to go to X-Golf and really prep your game and hit the season firing. X-Golf's state-of-the-art simulators let you play full rounds, tee to green with unmatched short game realism. X-Golf's auto tee system ensures you're always ready to bomb a drive. No delays or automatic two-putts, just real, competitive golf in a lively sports bar environment. Love a little competition? X-Golf's handicap leagues and tournaments give every golfer a shot at winning incredible prizes. Upcoming spring tournaments include the Majors, where you could win a beach or mountain vacation, or the Cinco de Mayo Scramble, win a trip to New Belgium Brewery in Asheville, and that is just the start. So visit playxgolf.com to find your nearest X-Golf and book your tee time today. Again, trust me on this, you're going to want to go to X-Golf, so visit playxgolf.com. Now that the weather's heating up for almost everyone, you need to flip your wardrobe. And if you're anything like me, summertime means more outfit changes. Golf, work, gym, playground with the kids, restaurants, whatever it is that you do, it probably requires a change of clothing. What you need are shorts and pants that look the part for all those places, but are actually comfortable. And that's a hard thing to do. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who's tried wearing a pair of regular golf shorts to dinner after playing earlier that day, only to have your wife tell you that you need to go change because now you're dressed like that creepy guy at the office who wears a golf shirt and golf shorts to work every single day, and it's just a real bad vibe. But here's the thing. Since I've started wearing bird dogs, hasn't said a word. They look the part for the course and everywhere else. Plus, Plus, unlike my dressier shorts, Bird Dogs are actually comfortable. They look the same, but they're not just chafing the inside of my thighs the entire time. I basically wear them everywhere now. And when I was at Pinehurst, a place that's really not known for the casual look, I was able to wear my Bird Dogs while I was playing, and then I wore the exact same shorts to the dress code steakhouse later that night. Everyone was uncomfortable as they were filling their guts with food. Not Pat Mayo, because I have my Bird Dogs. No issues whatsoever. And for a limited time, my listeners get a free hat with any order when you use code PATMAYO at birddogs.com. Get this hat completely free when you use code PATMAYO at birddogs.com. Show support for the Pat Mayo experience and let them know that I sent you. So let's talk about Brooks. I had Brooks basically written off. Brooks isn't playing any good golf. Then all of a sudden, he's second last time out on LIV. And I'm like, yeah, he's 35-1. He's sucking me back in. He was T2 at the Masters 2 years ago. He was T45 last year. Is there a number that Brooks becomes an auto bet in a major? I guess is the question.
I'm not a Brooks guy, but I think it's 25. If you're betting Brooks in perpetuity at 25 plus, you're winning money. But I'm not a Brooks guy, truthfully.
35-1, so it's an auto bet.
For the Brooks people, it's an auto bet. But how much are you taking from that runner-up at Sentosa? Because I mean, you got Rory at Quail, you got Jordan at Augusta, you got all these course horses. Brooks in Singapore is a course horse. He just plays well there no matter what. So I don't think it's too much to take from that runner-up.
Well, the last time that he had a great Masters performance, as I mentioned, was 2 years ago, and he had won the LIV event the week before. So maybe would it change your mind if Brooks wins Doral or is T4 at Doral this weekend?
I think it would show that he really cares, which I know that he does care, but it shows that he's really prepping and in good form to play his best golf heading into a tournament that he really wants to win, because I don't think it's a hot take that Brooks doesn't care too much about every single LIV event. But if he's showing back-to-back good weeks of golf, then it shows that he really wants to win this Masters.
It's funny to think about that he has more majors than Rory does. Yet in my mind, Rory is the vastly superior golfer. But Brooks getting but Brooks getting a Masters, I think, changes that.
I think that's a fair take, and I do think that's a fair take, because if Brooks gets a Masters with everything that Rory's gone through and everything that Rory strives to be, I want to win at Augusta. I need a green jacket for my career. And if Brooks just nonchalantly is like, dude, I'm playing like 3 times a year, and I'm going to win one of these, come on, Rory. So I agree.
And well, the U.S. Open might be the hardest major. I think that there's more winning an Open and winning the Masters, I do feel like are more important to your legacy than PGA Championships and U.S. Opens. And maybe that's just me and my bias coming into it.
No, you're right.
But like, there's something so historic about winning the Open, and people think about the Open, although it's not true at all, as like a real test of golf, like any element. You have to play from the fescue. Whereas, especially with how the U.S. Open has become now, there is a prototype of player that just does well at U.S. Opens. It's the Brooks, Bryson, Rory. Like when Wyndham Clark is winning it, like if you can't drive the ball, if you're not in the top 15% of driving distance on tour, you basically have no chance of winning the U.S. Open.
No, the U.S. Open has become a true driving contest over the last few years. And when I was at Pinehurst, I fell in love with Rory and obviously got my heart ripped out over the last few holes. But it's just, that's why I think Rory's going to win another U.S. Open before he wins anything else. I do have a soft spot for Rory at Augusta, like we talked about, but the U.S. Open bias, I think, is real.
Patrick Cantlay is the same odds as Brooks Koepka. He is 35-1 at the moment. He's been 22nd and 14th at the last 2 Masters. Across the board, his game is just pretty even-steven, but he's been 12th, 31st, 5th, 33rd over his past 4 starts. He is in the field at Valero right now, so we'll see what his result ends up being, but there's no part of his game that has been a detriment to him. He's putting well, he's chipping well, he's driving well, the irons are good, but they're all good. They're not great. And maybe this actually works to his favor because people I don't like win stuff all the time. I don't think there's a player in the field I want to see not win more than Patrick Cantlay.
Really, I'm opposite, total opposite. I'm a Patrick Cantlay defender, Patrick Cantlay truther. I also think I don't think he's gonna win. But is there a golf course that doesn't set up for Patrick Cantlay? They all make sense on paper, but it's Patrick Cantlay, what are you doing? He started one. I don't know. You probably haven't watched the Valero yet, but he was 120 in the fairway on hole 2 and flew it like 30 yards over the green. Like, what are you doing, dude? I don't understand how this is even possible. But I love you, Pat. 40 is not a bad number because I bet you at like 25 before in the Masters. So I don't know if I'm going to get there, but the stats, at least right now, make sense. He's kind of being really well-rounded, which is good to see. Hot approach play. And, I mean, the course makes sense. Yeah, it's Patrick Cantlay.
Patrick Cantlay's last win, 2022.
Yes, exactly. But the thing is, 40, I mean, it's not like it's 25 to 1. 40 makes a lot more sense. I can wager a little bit less and live with a 40 to 1. And maybe even it drifts a little bit higher if he has a bad week here. But I think the days of him being like 25, 30 to 1 in majors might be a little bit over unless he does something special. I think 40, 50 is much more fair on what Patrick Cantlay's real win equity is.
So we've continued to go through this. We're like 15 players in. We're beyond 40 to 1 right now, and it still remains the same. Rahm is the only odds that I still like. And it's funny because if you just go work underneath the notion that Scottie and Rory are not going to win, and they probably are going to win. They're the two favorites. They have the best win probability. They're setting up the best trend lines through course history, whatever it might be. But let's just live in a world where I can guarantee you that those two guys don't win. Doesn't it feel like anyone can win this tournament?
Truthfully, yeah. And if you can avoid, like, if you make a big card with golfers like 30 to 1 and below and just avoid one of those two bullets winning, you're going to have someone firmly in the mix with a chance to win. So time will tell, but that's probably going to be the route I take. I just like having more bullets in the chamber come Sunday, and hopefully one gets there.
Do you think Cameron Smith at 55 to 1 is going to be one of those bullets?
Unserious golfer. Has no chance.
Built like a bag of milk.
Chance. Yes, has negative chance to win.
I don't think he has a negative chance to win because he's going to end up being. I mean, he's not going to be in the Masters forever because he's not a Masters winner, but he is an Open champion, so we're going to see him for most of the rest of our lives at the British Open. But I think that he's going to be live to win either of those two tournaments any year just because of the putting and short game. We just see it too often with when Fred Couples and Bernhard Langer are able to compete into their 50s. Now, Bernhard's like 68 now. He's not competing anymore. But there's just going to be weird years where everything's going to click for them, and they'll always have that touch. That stuff doesn't go away. Weirdly, I think that Smith has a better chance of winning than Bryson.
Wow, that's a take for sure. I think that's fair because the short game is so comically legit. It's like the opposite of Bryson. They're the polar opposite golfer right now. He has the ball striking of like Korn Ferry Tour Max Homer right now, and the short game is still generational, and that'll take you a long way. But I just cannot trust what he's doing tee to green and with the ball striking.
I don't trust him either. Like on LIV, he's been objectively bad. He's 19th. Again, 54 players in this field. 19th, 20th, 30th, and 25th. There's results on LIV. But at the last three Masters, 6th, 34th, 3rd.
Yeah, the stats are what they are, and that checks out with the short game around Augusta. I just have to be out. I really do.
Shane Lowry is the next one up, and we are in a weird Shane Lowry year where he is currently 37 to 1 to win the Masters. Numbers up as high as 50. I think that he'll be 55, 60, 65 by the time that Monday rolls around. We are now at the second person that we've talked about that I am legitimately interested in betting. You have Oakmont at the U.S. Open this year, a place where he played well the very last time. It was sort of an introduction to the American audience for Shane Lowry, and obviously he won Portrush in 2019. That's where the Open Championship is going to go back to. He doesn't have the best trend line at the Masters, but he has some decent results the past 3 years. He was 43rd a year ago, 16th the year before that, T3 the year before that. But he comes in that sneaky form that you want to see. 8th, 20th, 7th, 11th coming in. If I can get him at 60 plus, I'm going to bet him.
I think I'm with you there too. And like you're looking at a stat profile coming in. Shane Lowry's got that. It's what you want to see it for a number. I do think that will lead him to be a very popular golfer, but it makes a ton of sense. I think I'm with you if I see a 55 or 60 could be in on Shane Lowry. I will say, do you think Shane Lowry wins an Open and a Masters in his career? Do you think he retires with that?
I think
that's a big task.
It is a big task, but you see a lot of players do that. Like, not a lot of players, but players, if they only have, like, Zach Johnson's one of them, obviously. I mean, Louis came that far from being one of them. I mean, Paul Casey has weirdly become that far from, I mean, he doesn't have a major, but he's come close to winning the Masters so many times. And the Open. Lee Westwood's another one. Sergio should have won at Carnoustie. Then he would have both. When I pair off golfers, that's why I said, like, Bryson, Brooks. It's weird that DJ has a Masters. He has that weird COVID Masters, but he always struck me as US Open PGA, US Open PGA. I feel like there's a through line for those guys, and then a through line for, let's just call them the magic touch players, the Cam Smiths, the Shane Lowrys. I don't think Lowry and Cam Smith are quite similar, but they do have that magic. Spieth is another one. Kuchar could have had both at some point of his career, where he probably never sniffed winning a US Open or a PGA championship. That if you want to break off players and majors, you keep those two on one side and the Masters and the Open on the other side. And I think that's a smarter way to go about it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And Shane Lowry is arguably having some of the best form of his career coming into major season. I think he's motivated. I think he wants it. I think he just, more than anything, knows he can do it. So interested to see what I see from him on Monday and Tuesday.
And you have to think, too, that Tim Andercuss might be the self-proclaimed big game hunter. Shane Lowry doesn't have bad wins. He only wins big events. He doesn't win often, but when he wins, they're big events. Like, he won...
No,
he won
right.
Even in Europe, like he won the DP World Tour Championship in whatever course that they play over in Dubai. His like only PGA win was at a WGC at Bridgestone when they used to play at Firestone, and then he has the Open Championship to his credit. I guess he has Zurich with Rory. But that's only a half win from last year.
Who could forget?
But you'd think that he would. We bet him every year to win the Honda, and he just comes second every single year. Like he fails in those tournaments, but in big moments he tends to come through once every few years. And it's been a few years now.
Yeah, and what's his number now? You said 55, and it could drift a little bit.
Yeah, I mean it's 55. It could drift a little bit. Even at 55, it's
we'll see.
Good.
I think 55 is fair. Not like I'm looking for like 55 and 60 is like too different for me, but I don't really see it getting better than that. Like I don't see I don't see it drifting too far. I don't see it drifting worse than 60 because it just makes too much sense. The stat profile is too good.
And I don't see it getting any worse initially unless everyone jumps on Lowry because
just hammers him.
Well, he's just not playing this week. He's out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. So yeah, no, you're right. So it'll probably hover around that 50-60 range, and which is either way, good click.
Can I sell you on Will Zalatoris at 50-1?
You do not have to sell me on my favorite golfer. He's right above my shoulder, right there. I love Willie Z. I'm all the way in on Willie Z at Augusta. The first year he almost won the Masters. I had him like 150-1. I love Willie Z. All the way in. Let's do it. What else do we have to say? Like just show bet. Willie Z.
Zalatoris' form is bad. Is the one drawback that I would say to this. Coming in, he's been 47th, 30th, 22nd, 24th. After being almost the first-round leader at Century, I think I bet him at the U.S. Open and the PGA Championship. Like, got to get my Willie Z numbers in now, and they're probably going to be worse by the time that I actually get there. His last three Masters, his only three Masters appearances, 9th, 6th, and 2nd. I think if you're doing this, you're telling yourself that you're betting Will Zalatoris at every Masters for the next 10 years, which probably isn't a bad idea. He just seems to be the closest of all those mid-tier guys that this is just a course that he loves and has figured out.
Honestly, I might push back on some bad form. The results aren't there. This is some of the best ball striking he's shown in like over a year. And I've been out there all year. And what I've seen from Will Zalatoris and talking to people in his camp, they have spoken and said how he's closer than ever. I was talking to a caddy in Phoenix, and they said, I was like asking, like, what's one guy who's like looks really good? He's like, Will Zalatoris is going to win soon. He's striping harder than I've ever seen him stripe. And he's popped a little bit to start the season in terms of the ball striking. The putting's not there, but you get him on fast, slopey greens. That's what he needs. And it checks out with his course history. So I'm all the way in on Willie Z. I'm excited to see him out there, and I'll probably get there at whatever 35, whatever his number is. I don't even care. Give me
45.
3-1.
45 right now. So you're still doing pretty well on Will Zalatoris. I'm considering it. That's why I wanted to bring it up with you. The approach play, I agree, has been awesome coming in. He's top 10 in the field in approach so far this season. The driving has been really hit or miss. As you mentioned, he doesn't putt all that well until you get to Augusta National. And his 3 turns at Augusta National, the first year he gained 6.3 strokes against the field putting. 5.6 the second year. Lost 2 last year, which was kind of surprising, but still finished inside the top 10. Last year was a very difficult year. But the harder the golf course gets, usually the better it is for Will Zalatoris.
100%. And if you're looking at his data graph profile, he's still constantly gaining in terms of distance to the field. It's just the accuracy where he's losing some leverage to the field. And around Augusta, that can work. He can make his way around there. So I think the profile coming into the week for Will Zalatoris is where it needs to be. The numbers in a good spot, and he's not like giga chalk, which I also love. So we'll see going forward. But I do like Zal as of Thursday morning.
Jordan Spieth is 35-1. I'd like for it to happen. Don't think it's going to happen. He needs to knock off one of these second-tier tournaments before I really start taking him seriously at majors again.
I agree, and he's just someone I don't trust for 72 holes with any club in the bag. Like, I can see him missing a 3-foot putt, hooking an iron shot, blasting a drive OB. I just don't see it going together, but no one's going to say the course history is bad. He loves this place more than a lot of other places. But what's your take on Jordan coming into the week? Because I just can't trust his game.
I don't trust him either. If he was 70-1, not 35-1, I would bet him to win. But because he's Jordan Spieth and this is the Masters, he's just going to have bad odds because there's a contingent of people, probably a lot of people who are tuning into golf for the first time. If you're watching, this is the first golf video or golf podcast that you have listened to in 2025, there's a very good chance you might be thinking about betting on Jordan Spieth.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because if you know nothing about golf, you know that Jordan Spieth at Augusta. But he's had his best approach week in like a year in his last start at the Valspar, which I also think could be a testament to the weaker field. But it's a number. It's a number that it's a benefit to you. So he should be geared up and excited. But outside of that, I just don't trust him on the greens for more than anything. It's just crazy to think that I don't trust Jordan Spieth on the greens, but I really don't, especially a 3-footer.
I don't trust him to come through with this number either, though. But let's say you bet on Shane Lowry to win. Me and you are sitting there. We have Will Zalatoris and we have Shane Lowry. We're feeling good come Sunday. They're up by 2 strokes and we're going to the back 9. And the only guy that can chase them down is Jordan Spieth. Then I would be terrified of Jordan Spieth.
1,000%. And that is just a testament of what strokes gained dog is. It does not matter what your form is, what kind of golf you're playing. When you're in the mix, how hard do you mix and how do you come out on top? Or how do you come out not on top? That's strokes gained dog, and Jordan Spieth has that. I'm scared of him if he gets there for sure.
Let's power rank these guys. If you have the 2 leaders right now making the turn, we've come through number 9, we're going to number 10. Who are the 3 players that you wouldn't want to be 2 strokes behind your guys at this Masters? Scottie's got to be number 1.
Scottie. Honestly, I know it hasn't been good at Augusta, but Rory can close, and he's playing great golf. Scottie, Rory, and then Brooks. Brooks is strokes gained dog king. I don't want him near.
Yeah, I think Spieth would be up there for me. Weirdly, I think that Justin Thomas as a chaser would be there for me too. If I had Justin Thomas with a 2-stroke lead, I would feel awful about it. If I had Justin Thomas 2 strokes back, I would feel much better.
Yeah, 100%. He's not one of those guys, but there's so many guys that I say can only win on accident, meaning like post the number and hopefully shit like breaks loose and they just are in the clubhouse. Like Alex Smalley's like 1-1 guy can only win on accident. And that's just a weird Alex Smalley nugget. But yeah, Justin Thomas, I'd rather him being a little bit from behind than being ahead.
I totally just forgot about the guy that I probably do want to bet is Jon Rahm. Jon Rahm's a killer. That if he was sitting there, you'd be like, ooh, that's not good. I got Zalatoris and I got Shane Lowry, and here comes Jon Rahm.
And we're still I'm almost halfway down, and Rahm seems to be your guy. So I'm going to be upset if you don't pull the trigger. So on Rahm,
I want to wait for the odds to get better. Like I don't know if I'm going to get there at 15 because do I want to start my card with Rahm at 50? Like I have 3 in so far, and I'll mention those when we get to them. I've mentioned them on the Majors Future shows already, and all their odds are much worse now, so you're not going to be able to get the same numbers as me. So I need to see if I can construct a case to convince you guys to bet on these 3 with me, even at worse numbers. It worked for Danny Willett when he won, when he was 50-1 by the time it came around. If you still bet on him, he still won at 50-1, just not 150-1. But with Rahm, if I can get him at 20, I'm going to be in. But after that, so far, like I'm making the short list, and this has been very helpful because I agree with you. I think that it's so much harder to cross people off. and really go in. And when we're thinking about constructing a betting card, and for DraftKings purposes or daily fantasy purposes, all of this is so much different because you have to take certain players from certain ranges. When you're filling out your Masters pool and the top 6 guys are Scheffler, Rory, Ludvig, Morikawa as like one block, well, you got to take one of them, and you're going to like a few of them to go through it. But when you're investing your money at certain odds, and those odds are attached to them, there's only so much value you can squeeze out of a tournament. I've been running really poor at the Masters over the past few years outside of to make the cut parlays, which I will have in my newsletter this time around. I'm good, I think, for the next 90 years in terms of profit based off last year, so it's probably not going to hit again, but we're going to try. I've hit 2 big ones, a big one in 2019, and I hit a big one last year. So probably give me 4 years before I hit another one, but those are, I honestly think they're the best bets of all golf season because
those are some sweats.
They're sweats, but the books don't price them properly. Because when you think about this field, how many people are in this field? 92?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. And you have what? 5 amateurs, maybe 1 makes the cut. So let's call it a field of 88. You have a bunch of past champions in the field. Like between old guys who barely snuck in, bad first-time players and old dudes, there's like 20 of those guys. Let's say 5 of them make the cut. So now let's take that down to 73 players. It's top 50 in ties make the cut, which usually means like 55 players make the cut. So really, when you're looking at it, it's a 73-man field and 55 of them are going to make the cut. A lot of guys who you think are going to make the cut are going to make the cut this week. You have to avoid like the 1 or 2 names that actually miss. That's the entire thing.
I remember last year, or like a year or 2 ago, when Justin Thomas shot like 9 over with like 3 holes to go to miss the cut, and I had him in a missed cut or made cut parlay. When the weather got really bad, was that last year or the year before?
That was 2 years
ejected.
ago. I just remember watching him. I remember watching him because I think he was playing with Tiger. Remember he was drinking coffee on the course because he had to come back out on Saturday?
Yes. It was that year.
That was no fun.
Horrible.
So far, Rahm, Lowry, and Zal are like the 3 that I think that we've talked about that I do like going through.
Strong card.
Let's try to bang out a few more. I don't have any money on them yet. We'll see. Viktor Hovland is up next. He won his last start after 3 consecutive missed cuts. Maybe he's back. I don't trust this at all.
I mean, if Vic goes miscut, win, then okay, you got me. But I just don't think that there's no world where that's happening. The short game is still horrendous. He benefited from. Look, the approach play was never an issue. Like I thought Valspar was a good course fit for him going in. The ball striking was like okay. It wasn't phenomenal, but it wasn't horrible. It was poor short game, which has been Vic forever. He benefited from the great putting week, which is when Vic is playing, it's like, yeah, short game there, bang, he pops on the greens. The short game is still horrible, not going to work around Augusta. Can he pop for a round? Sure, but 72 holes, I don't see it.
He's another one, I think, in the Bryson camp that if the conditions got wetter, I think he would be better.
For 1,000%. I mean, he was first-round leader, 2 years ago? When with him and Xander, I think, tied the first-round lead. They were playing with no, it wasn't him and Xander, but he was playing with Tiger. It was Viktor and Rahm were first-round leaders, I think. And Rahm started with a 3 or 4 putt, and then I think he got the first-round leader. Yeah, 2 or 3 years ago. So if Viktor can do it for a round.
Yeah, that was the year that Rahm ended up winning, and Viktor was in the second to last group. I think he and I want to say Cam Smith were playing together. Maybe he wasn't with Cantlay. Cantlay was with Sam Bennett when they had to play the 36 or 30 holes on the Sunday with Rahm and Brooks going head-to-head. Tommy is next. Do you think Tommy wins a major before he wins just a regular PGA Tour event?
Honestly, I talked about this earlier in the week. I think the case studies on Tommy and Xander are very similar because before last year, Xander won golf tournaments, but he was known as a loser who was very consistent with the green across the profile. That's what Tommy is. So I think it's just a matter of time before you just keep knocking on doors and you just find yourself whether to either win on accident or get it done. And I could see it happening at like the highest level of events because no one thought Xander was going to win a major last year. And then he won 2. I had him in both majors because I just saw amazing things from him. Practice round merchant, by the way. So I just think if Tommy just keeps doing what he does, it's going to happen. But I don't trust him on the back nine if he's in that setting that we've put so far. But what's your take on Tommy?
I think that the U.S. Open is always going to be the best major for him, even though he's not. He's one of the non-strict bombers that are out there. It's a lot like Corey Connors as well, who has a decent run at the Masters. But I think that they're in the group of, we think of them as probably not Connors. We think of him as being good at the Masters, which is a bit overblown because he's been really bad the past 2 years at Augusta. But with Tommy, like you think like, oh, the Open is going to be where he gets it, or Augusta, like he would fit into that bucket. Maybe the Open is the answer, but his style of tee to green play, if he's putting well, gets him out of so many jams at the U.S. Open that I think that maybe Oakmont, because accuracy does mean so much at Oakmont. Distance is always going to win the day, but where his just overall ball striking and distance plus accuracy, he's not going to be up there with Rory or Rahm or Bryson or those guys in terms of distance, but he has enough, and he hits the fairway way more than those guys, that I think that that's probably a better look for him this year than the Masters. He was third at the Masters last year, though, so it's not off the table he can win.
Yeah, I think Oakmont is the better spot for him if I had to pick one major spot, but it should be a business casual top 10 for Tommy next week. Just like going on, Tommy, backdoor top 10. It's what he does. No questions asked.
The most interesting name in the field comes from LIV. It's Joaquin Niemann, who Phil has actually declared is better than Scottie Scheffler, which is a take, I suppose. If you're throwing some hot ones out there, that's one. 28-1 to win the majors. He has played with Scottie Scheffler in 16 majors, Matt. He has beat him in one major in his career. His best finish in a major is T16, yet he has been the best player on LIV by far. This year, last year, chalk it all up. I still have yet to see it in a major, and if we haven't seen it in a major, very rarely do you just win the Masters.
You're right. And I want to ask you, what is the state of the union around Waco in the entire community right now? Is it that he's going to break through soon still? Because there's people hanging around, or that he's never done it in a major, it's not going to happen. What do you think the state of the union is?
I posed the question to Jeff that if he was still playing on the PGA Tour, who would his contemporary be? And I said it was Will Zalatoris.
It's not a bad take. That's not a bad take. But how old is Joaquin Niemann? What is he, 26 years old?
Okay.
He's 26 years old.
He's a young man.
I think
Scottie's only
only get it better.
Scottie's only like 28. People forget that. I think everyone thinks Scheffler's 45.
Right, because he looks like he's about 45. But, Niemann's only 26. It's not crazy that he hasn't done it in the majors, because he was on the tour when he was like a child. The dude is only getting more confident and better. He could not be at the prime of his career yet. I'm in the camp that Joaquin, at least this year, gets into the mix one time. I'm standing strong. I'm not betting LIV in the majors. I don't think they're going to win one, but I think Joaquin can get into the mix.
I would throw him in the PGA US Open camp versus the Masters.
Yeah, especially at Oakmont. The dude's shots that he has are just incredible. When I was at Troon last year, he hit the greatest shot I've ever seen. Hit like a 310-yard driver. It probably didn't get higher than 4 feet off the ground. I was like on the floor. I was like, this kid is insane.
Yeah, that's very impressive. He came T58.
Yep. Postage stamp absolutely ejected him. He's going to win outside of that postage stamp.
What did he do? A quad or quintuple bogey there?
Something otherworldly that I got eviscerated by.
A lot of these guys that we're talking about, be it Ludvig, Bryson, I think I threw. Zalatoris is a bit weird. You'd think that he would be in this camp, but he actually has some pretty good touch around the greens. But he's another one. Like, his short game is fine, but it's not elite like you would want it to be. Like, I just think about ball striking with him. I don't think about putting in short game. And if he was still on tour, I know he won at Riv before he left. But other than that, like, he won the Greenbrier. He's winning on LIV at. He's shooting like 59s at some of these courses. Like, is he an easy course specialist?
Yeah, but you can't forget, they don't just hand out Greenbriers. Bryson won there, Brooks won there, Xander won there. It's just a course that I'm messing with you. But yeah, I don't know. He could just be an easy course merchant. He's done that on LIV this year. I will say his talent is top percentile in the world, and I don't think that's a hot take at all. But it's just a matter of time. He's only 26. I think it'll happen where he gets into the mix hardly soon enough.
I do think that we think about that. It's funny that this one tournament sticks out in everyone's mind. The Olympia Fields BMW Championship, which I do think was the best BMW championship ever. It was essentially set up like a major where Rahm made that huge putt in the playoff to beat DJ, and he shot 64 on the final day to rally back. I think he entered the final round. He was 75-71 in the first 2 rounds. And then over the weekend, he just went ballistic and got into the playoff at 4 under par. Niemann just acquitted himself so well when the conditions got the worst that I think that sticks out in our mind so much that we think he's really good at hard courses. And listen, certain guys are going to play well certain weeks and some guys are going to play poorly certain weeks. It's hard to tell.
Right.
But just overall, do you think there's a weird amount of pressure on him put on by LIV because he left? He's been the best player. He's won 2 of the past 3 LIV starts that he's come in on, that when he gets to the majors, he kind of psychs himself out a little bit?
There has to be, and there has to be even pressure on him dating back to before the LIV days. He was like the best golfer from South America, this wonder kid who was on the PGA Tour and the best player that anyone's ever seen. Then he gets to these big spots. It's a test, and it's a different test for sure that he clearly hasn't figured out yet. But again, I'll circle back one more time. I think he was young, and he still is young, and it's coming because he seems more confident in every start that I've watched so far.
Dustin Johnson, a Masters champion. He's in the field. He was T5 last time out on LIV. That's pretty good considering he was 54th, 31st, and 44th before that on LIV. He had a T12 2 years ago at Augusta, but the last 2 years he has missed the cut and come T48. If he plays well at Doral over the weekend, would you be willing to buy in a little bit?
I actually bet DJ those 2 poor weeks before he had the top 5. So I was like, oh yeah, of course now he's going to win after I'm off of him. But I think I'm going to pose this question. If DJ is 1 behind of your guy when it's not Jon Rahm, I think I'm scared. Are you scared if you have, say, Willie Z and DJ's 1 behind on Sunday on the back nine?
I don't think so.
Okay, fair.
I think
the dog's there, but the game's not there.
That's the whole thing. And I guess if he was a stroke behind, it would kind of appear like the game is there, and then you would start to get a little bit terrified. But as someone who has lost a lot of money on Dustin Johnson at the Masters over the years, didn't bet him when he was 5-1 to win the November Masters, but he just has trouble closing when anytime it's been in April at Augusta.
No, you're definitely right. I'll never count DJ out. I'm not in. I'm definitely not in. But I think I like him more than a majority of the LIV guys. I probably like, obviously, Rahm, Bryson, Niemann. I would put like DJ maybe 4th there.
No.
In strokes gained to LIV.
No.
I might do it.
No.
I might do it.
I think Reed and Phil.
You're going to put Cam Smith.
I'm going to put Sergio at number 2, but that's me.
That's right. You like Sergio. I'm higher on DJ. I think he'll play better than those LIV guys.
Well, look, DJ's 90-1 right now, and Sergio's 125-1. So the books agree with you that Dustin's the better player. But I would book that action just straight up, even money on both sides. Sergio over Dustin for this Masters. Fitz is up next. Is this guy even good at golf anymore?
No, but that's what happens when you get married on the Jersey Shore. You get married on the Jersey Shore and all hell breaks loose. I called it 2 years ago. I lived there. I grew up there. I know it doesn't go well. And that's what happened. So Fitz's career is over. I'm sorry for Matthew Fitzpatrick, but hopefully you can make a few cuts going out.
Did he have his braces on or off when he got married?
I believe they were off. And I was laughing because I saw him post his wedding pictures on like this local bar that I grew up going to. I'm like, why is Matt Fitz here? Like taking his like proposal pictures. And so that was the end of his career.
Fitzpatrick is currently, where am I going to find him on the odds board right now, is 100-1 to win the Masters. Here's the weird thing though. It's not like, he won the U.S. Open 3 years ago now, and he's been bad for about a year. Coming in, miscut 22nd, 49th, miscut 48th. Not great. We'll see how he does at Valero. But his past 3 Masters, 22nd, 10th, and 14th. Is he one of these weird guys that just, almost like Cam Smith, that he will just show up and play well at Augusta National because he has something figured out about the course?
Well, he's surely a difficult conditions guy. That's not a hot take at all. Maybe he can. I think he'll make the cut. And then if he has one, I think his round last year or his tournament last year, he had a really good Sunday that was out of nowhere. Can that happen? Have a good round again? Sure, and finish top 20. But I wouldn't count on it. I wouldn't bet on it. I would probably fade him in matchups with guys around him if that was the case, because I'm just out on Matt Fitz at a macro level.
Maybe people will see this as disrespect, but we're finally getting to Russell Henley on this list. Henley's odds are as high as, what do we have here for Russell Henley? 55 to 1, as high as 70 at the moment. Playing some of the best golf coming in. And as you mentioned before, that he has started to show up, and even at Augusta in his career before, has shown up at courses where his skill profile translates anywhere because he's so good at kind of everything. But it really feels like he's over his skis. This reminds me a lot of Webb Simpson. When Webb Simpson went through that career resurgence like 5 years ago now, whenever that was. They're like, all of a sudden, Webb is one of the best players in the world again. You're like, this can go very poorly the moment it goes poorly. That's how I kind of feel about Russell Henley, because he's just not, he has elite approach play. That is true. And he's putting really well. And he hits a lot of fairways. But once a little bit of that goes away, I feel like he's doomed.
I have a question for you. If Russell Henley wins the Masters and it was number 70 to 1, win at Bay Hill, striping his irons beyond belief, another top six at the Honda T5 at Pebble, with another top 5 at Augusta. Would we feel stupid to not bet that?
Yes, we would. His past 3 Masters, 38th, 4th, and 30th coming in. I just, other people are going to win money on Russell Henley. It's not going to be me.
You're out on Russell Henley, and I'm a Russell Henley guy when we're on Bermuda. Obviously, we don't have that here, but we're strokes gained Georgia. I can give that some love. I don't know. The 70 to 1. You're kind of making me think about it, at least and like I said before with the strokes gained caddy, he knows his game. He'll never try to do. I hate when guys try to do too much. But he'll never try to do too much. He'll play within himself.
That's true. I don't think that's the proper strategy for Augusta. There's magic you need to have at Augusta. What you're talking about is winning the PGA Championship.
Okay, that's fair take, and that's something that I wouldn't have said. So that makes sense. If he doesn't have that extra gear, is what you're saying.
It's not even it's not the extra gear. It's as you said, he's not going to do something that he's not good at doing. He's going to even when we mentioned Justin Thomas earlier, he kind of goes the other way. He's better when he's playing like a crazy person. And when he tries to rein it in and play like Russell Henley, he just simply cannot do it. But you need to have the hook ability around 3 trees to try to get it onto the green to save par or save birdie that I just don't think that Russell Henley has, that some of these other guys do. Like, if it was between them and they were the same number, so let's say they were both 60 to 1, and Russell Henley's there, and Will Zalatoris is there. You are betting Will Zalatoris 10 times out of 10.
That's not even a question. Yeah.
But
it's probably the wrong answer.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
But we know that statistically, on paper, with our eyes, that's probably the wrong answer. But we know what we want for Augusta.
You're not wrong. And you're right. Russell Henley won't do that because I don't think he just has that in the bag. And it's funny because if he hits a bad shot, he's not going to try to save it in one shot. He'll chip out and make up 5. That's it. Yeah, but you might not. You need to have that. You're right.
Yeah, you need to have. And listen, the guys will blow up more often than not. Like Russell Henley, top 10 at the Masters. I could see that most definitely. I mean, this was always kind of the knock.
Yeah, now we're talking.
But this was kind of like the knock on Xander as well. That Xander didn't seem like he had that in him either. But we saw so many shots from him, especially during the PGA Championship. They're like, okay, maybe he does have this on the go, and he just never stopped. And people will call that. People like to diminish that, like, oh, that's barely a major. It was so easy. They can't control the rain. And it comes and just makes everything a target practice. But you have to play the course that was put. He wasn't the only one who got to play it when it was easy, as it turns out. Everyone did. He still won. I just look at the other guys around him in this range. Like, Sahith is on this list. I do not think Sahith is going to win the Masters. He's been really bad. But if you needed to tell me someone needed to play a snap hook around 3 trees to get it out, to put it to 10 feet, Sahith would be the answer over Russell Henley.
Yeah, he's top on that list for sure. He's a guy that I always like at Augusta too, but that's a different story. But you're right. Russell Henley might not have that gear / that style.
But maybe he'll prove us wrong, end up donning the green jacket. Who knows? The only player I can really remember like him winning the Masters is Mike Weir.
Yeah. What about ZJ?
ZJ, that was a weird circumstance year. Like, he won it 1 over. It rained the entire time. I just think conditions led to, maybe Immelman might be the actual answer to this, but the conditions for ZJ the year that he won, they had to be those conditions or that he had no chance of winning. Willett was the same way.
Fair.
Like
Good take.
Willett doesn't win unless it's like the windiest Sunday of all time.
Yeah, but who knows? Sometimes if Russell Henley's playing such great golf, you get into a spot, and who knows what happens?
Sure, but
An accident.
But I think that's his out. I don't want to bet on that going in necessarily.
I will. Yes, that is his out. But at 70 plus, I'm willing to take a chance. It's not like he's 40, 50. We'll see. It's still early. And we're having the conversation about it. But I think there's worse bets to be made. Is kind of all I'm saying.
I got a group of 5 guys right now. I just mentioned one of them. Sahith. You have Finau, Sahith, Tom Kim, Wyndham Clark, and Sungjae Im. Of those 5 guys, who do you realistically think has the best chance of winning? Because they're all coming in. Clark showed a bit of form in Houston, but he also had none of these guys have really been good this year.
So it was Clark, Sungjae, Sahith, and who else?
Finau.
Okay, I would say the best. I don't really like any of these guys. I would say the best chance of winning is Wyndham because he has the strokes gained dog. If I had to pick one of them to bet for electricity purposes, it would be Sahith. Finau, his career is over. He doesn't care about golf. He cares about hanging with his kids and going on lit par 3 courses. But I would go with Wyndham. He wants it bad.
Sahith is 70-1. He was top 10 last year. In the last shot that I saw of him on tour, he was chipping it into the water on a par 5, trying to clear the water from 30 yards in front of him directly into the middle. Something's off with him.
I did see that. Yeah, it really is. And I'm a Sahith guy. Like, I bet him a lot. I'll bet Sahith in perpetuity because I know the inevitable mix is coming. But I didn't know he was 70. Hopefully the reset happens and he gets triple digits because then I could possibly consider it. But if you're asking me that question, it's probably just Wyndham.
Yeah, and the answer is probably none of these guys.
Yeah, that's probably the real answer.
Yeah, Wyndham was a debutant at the Masters last year, which is crazy considering he had won the U.S. Open in 2 elevated events, all in the span of 9 months. Then he promptly goes out to the Masters and misses the cut. So maybe he's a bit humbled coming back to Augusta this time around. The next collection of guys to talk about, some have great form coming in, and other ones are names that we know can be good, but real spotty. You got Corey Connors and Daniel Berger, 2 guys playing really good golf. Then you got Sam Burns and Jason Day. The Connors, I think, is the most obvious of these guys, but I do think that Berger is probably the best of the bunch.
I think I'm with you there. And like Connors has to be so happy right now because this run of golf that he's on couldn't happen at a better time. Like he has these top 10s. He's at who knows? TPC San Antonio might be his home course. He might have grown up there. And then Augusta where he's played so well. So Corey Connors is making a ton of cash right now. But I think Daniel Berger's the guy. He's just in a different class of those guys that you've listed. Sam Burns also Corn Ferry watch. So I think it's Berger.
Okay. And Jason Day, Jason Day has some pretty deep odds depending on some places. Like you can find him plus triple digits in a lot of places.
Yeah, Jason Day.
He is someone that
What do you think about Jason Day?
I like Jason Day. I could see him aging into and I mean, I know he only has the PGA Championship at Whistling Straits, but he has the sort of game that is just reeks of Masters or Open to me as an old guy.
Yeah, for sure. And like he seems more comfortable by the week, and like when he finally got his new swing in sorts the last year and a half, he's looked more confident. I bet him last week in Houston, and it just wasn't anything good at all. But I do think I like Jason Day to play well in one of these majors going forward.
One of the first of the 3 guys I already have money on to win the Masters. I bet him at CoolBet at 150-1 before the Players Championship. He is now, what is he down to? I think he's down to 55-1. He'll probably end up, because he's not playing right now. Yeah, he's 55-1 to win. You'll probably see him end up at 80, 85 unless he becomes a very popular name. I love Robert McIntyre this week. Comes in with fantastic form, 9th at the Players, 11th at API, 6th in Phoenix, and he's only played in the Masters twice. This is before he was a 2-time PGA Tour winner. He came 12th in his debut, 23rd the next time around. He chipped well, he putted well, but the ball striking, if he can put it together with that history at Augusta, makes him alive. And he's a lefty, Matt. You gotta love the lefties.
No one overthinks golf less than Robert McIntyre. He sees the scorecard. It says 4. He goes, okay, I need to make a 4. He plays to par like it is his job, which it is. And he also plays so amazing in national opens. We have to ask ourselves, would we consider the Masters or National Open? If you want to put it on the flow chart, yes, then bet him. He loves difficult conditions. He's playing some great golf right now for a while now, actually. And yeah, 80-1. Bob Mack is a big game hunter. I'm with you.
Love it. Would you bet him at 55 though?
Is that what he is?
Yeah, that's what he is in some spots now. Because after he started like playing well, he went down. Like I got him at 150. I think that's I made it an auto bet for me.
That's a great number.
But let's say he was 85, which I think is a bit more realistic for what the Monday number is probably going to be. Would that interest you?
Yeah, I've been on Bob a ton this year. So there's no like, he hasn't played bad. He just hasn't won. So I'm down for Bob.
And one of the outs that I like with him too is he's sort of an any conditions player.
Yep.
Like give me wind, give me rain.
He can do it.
It's fine. It's fine for him. That's why I liked him at
it's
the
just
Players.
another home day in Scotland. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was close. He made a little run.
Patrick Reed is up next. No one will bet on Patrick Reed because no one likes Patrick Reed outside of me, basically. 90-1 to win the Masters. Of all of the LIV guys, I think that he has been the most consistent at the Masters over the past few years. 12th, 4th, and 35th. He had another, I believe, T8 the year before that. Obviously, he's won this before. 25th and 10th on LIV coming in. Reed is just kind of a maniac because he's still playing Asian Tour events. He's trying to pick up DP World Tour events. It doesn't matter where it is in the world. Patrick Reed is trying to get in. He does feel like someone who will eventually sneak. Like he came, 4th 2 years ago out of nowhere. If he's just randomly lurking there, I'd be kind of terrified.
Yeah, and to plug something real quick, 5 p.m. today, we have an interview with Kessler Corain dropping over at Vinceric's Golf YouTube channel. Talked us through their Augusta prep, talked us through how they've had success around this golf course, what they need to do, and the state of their game right now. And I'll tell you right now, they are confident. Pat was out there last Tuesday just scouting the course, and they honestly, them two together, specifically Kessler, if we had this conversation right now about stats and golfers, they would know nothing. All they know is I'm better than you and I'm gonna beat you. That's how you win. And that's just how some of these guys are. They epitomize and ooze strokes gained dog. So and that's what Patrick Reed has been his entire career. And I just thought it was so crazy talking to them how like that checked out with Patrick Reed's style of golf and how he's played in his entire career. So definitely check that out later today because it was a great conversation and them two are ready for that next week for sure.
I like him as a top 10 bet.
Yeah, I'm with you there. They are dialed, and Patrick Reed is not playing bad golf by any means. He's playing all over the world, like you said, and just like minting T3s. But yeah, Patrick Reed should be ready for the week.
Coming off his first career PGA Tour win, Lee is back in the field at the Masters. I loved him here 2 years ago, and I think that was the only time he was ever bad at the Masters. This will be his 4th start in his career. He comes in with a finish last year of T22, missed the cut the year before that after 4-putting the third hole on Friday or on Thursday, and then I knew I was doomed. But he was T14. He has the right game for Augusta. We just saw it in Houston. Now, he sprays it a bit too much off the tee sometimes, but even at Augusta, that's really not the end of the world.
No, not at all. And I mean, he's finding the approach game, which is important, which is something he hasn't done. Very similar to Minwoo Lee's Wyndham Clark's stat profile before he won LACC. A guy who struggled on approach but bombed it, and he kind of found the approach play, won an event, bang, major championship. Does Minwoo Lee go win-win though? I don't think so. Does Minwoo Lee play all right? Sure. And I think this is a great golf course for him. Makes sense on paper. Do I trust him under the gun on Sunday? No. But he's getting better.
Yeah, he's getting the reps in. I mean, he was tied with Scottie in, the final round 3 years ago at the Players, was the 36-hole leader with Akshay this year at the Players and melted on the Saturday, and he got to play in the final group on Sunday. Like, sometimes you need those. I've always said this, because I remember very vividly when Mike Weir won the Masters, and he was up against Len Matisse. Now, he drew Len Matisse in the playoff. That was very helpful. But the reason that he didn't fold down the stretch is because he shot an 82 playing with Tiger in the final group of the PGA Championship, either the year before or 2 years before that. Like, you need to go get your ass kicked. If your name's not Tiger Woods, you basically need to go get your ass kicked late in a major to really figure out what's going on.
I mean, even Xander, like, he didn't really ever truthfully get his ass handed to him, but he knocked on the door so many times and just fell short with a few mistakes. gets there last year and knocks the door down. So I think that's very similar to Minwoo Lee, but I don't think this is the spot just timing wise. But I think good things are coming in majors soon enough.
I think he's the right profile for Augusta. If I had
sure.
if I had to pick
100%.
one, he putts, he chips, he drives, and maybe he can get lucky with his irons. That's the Patrick Reed profile.
What are his odds? It's like too obvious. Like I'm a big like this is too obvious thing. Like it's too obvious.
Let's see. Minwoo right now is 55 to 1, 60 to 1 in some spots. I think that he ends up at 75, 80.
Yeah, I mean, there's worse bets to be made. I'm probably going to be out, but I wouldn't hate anyone for betting Minwoo here.
If he was 60, would you bet him or Henley?
Henley.
I would bet
Henley.
I would bet Minwoo over Henley.
That's probably the right choice. I'll go to Russ.
The second future bet I have in at 110 to 1, my main man, Akshay Bhatia. I think that he is perfectly suited to win a Masters. He's perfectly suited to miss the cut at the Masters, but the improvement that he has made on the greens and even around the greens, he's not a complete failure anymore. His ball striking is great. He gets in very little trouble. It's funny that I just mentioned Patrick Reed with Minwoo, but the way that Reed won the year he did, he just attacked par fours. I could see Akshay doing that one of these years. I hope it's this year. Well, I have money on him, but to me, he seems the best of those like under 25 players to win at Augusta National.
Yeah, I'm so high on Akshay's game too, especially on the big stage. I bet him in a few or one or two U.S. Opens or PGAs. I like him more when driving accuracy is more at a premium, but like driving accuracy is never going to hurt you anywhere. So yeah, Akshay's been striping the irons. I think I'm with you there. I think he's a good play. What'd you have him? 150, you said?
I have him at 110. He's still 100 right now. Like that's one that you can actively get in on.
Yeah, no, he's too good of a player to be triple digits and not play well in a major really well. I mean, he played well at Pinehurst. He played all right at Pinehurst. He played well at the Memorial too last year. So I'm down in difficult conditions. Akshay, big field.
And even Akshay at the Players Championship this year, the most impressive thing that I thought about him was on the Saturday. He lost it. Like he didn't have his game. And Minwoo played himself.
So impressive.
Minwoo played himself out of the tournament when he had no game. Akshay kept himself in the tournament and gave himself a chance on Sunday. Then he came out, bang, birdie, 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 and he made his run. He didn't get there. He came in third, but I thought it was just so impressive because it was probably the biggest stage that he's ever been on that late. Co-leading the Players Championship, and you don't got your best stuff. What usually happens? You shoot 78. Didn't happen to him. He was able to because of the putting. His putting has improved. I don't think I've ever, outside of Adam Scott and Webb Simpson's dramatic shifts from being the worst guys on tour to some of the best, Akshay's just gradual improvement every year of his career is astonishing.
Yeah, honestly, that weekend at the Players was more impressive than any of his wins so far because it was such a big stage. He could have easily shit the bed and just went away, and no one really would have faulted him so bad. Like, yeah, first time in a big spot, you live and you learn, you're still a good player. But him hanging around till Sunday late, shout out Akshay. Like, not everyone has that. And being, 22, 23 years old, that's impressive stuff.
He was T35 in his debut at Augusta last year. Obviously, he only got into the field by winning Valero. He has 2 wins in his career over the past 2 years. In his past 4 starts, 3rd at the Players, 9th in Mexico, 9th at Torrey Pines with a miscut at Bay Hill sandwiched in between. I think it's looking pretty good for him right now. At least if you want to sniff someone at triple digits that's still at triple digits, it just feels to me like he's one of your best opportunities.
Yeah, I think he does make a ton of sense. I'm with you on Shay.
Sepp Straka up next. I bet him to win the Open this year. I don't know how I feel about his game at Augusta, weirdly.
Yeah, honestly, like he's a guy who I feel like we've kind of forgotten about him, and he's done nothing but still play great golf. Like not many people have hit the irons better than Sepp Straka. And I know he's coming in with a win at the Amex, not like a big win, but won this year already. He doesn't have the best course history. He's got the top 20. I don't think it's a bad bet. What's his number right now?
His number right now, I believe, is 80 to 1.
I wish that was a little bit longer, but I took Sepp 70 at Amex, and if you're telling me I can get like a similar number or even longer, if it gets 2 triple digits, I could be in because I just think Sepp is like a better player. I think this is like not a floodgates year, but like a breakthrough year. Like he was there at some of the Open Championships, there in some big spots. I'm down for Seb.
Yeah, I really do like him at Portrush. That's why I made that future on him, and you can still catch him at 100-1 for Portrush right now. That just logically in my mind, and I don't know if Portrush is going to play the same as it did in 2019, because that was a really soggy Open Championship that led to a certain type of player. It was Lowry and Fleetwood on the leaderboard, but you have to remember that Brooks and JB Holmes were there, and the only reason Brooks probably didn't finish as high as he should have is because he played with JB Holmes, who shot 87 on Sunday.
Yeah, that did in fact happen. That did in fact happen.
Yeah, you don't see that much in the penultimate group of a major.
No, not too often. Not too often.
All right, a few more guys here. Here's a group of 5 for you. I mentioned Michael Kim. He was the last man into the field. As of right now, guys can still play themselves in with a win at Valero if they're not previously qualified. So by Sunday night, you'll know the answer to that question. So Michael Kim's number 50 into the world. He was on this show yesterday, so you can go watch the interview I did with Michael Kim. I like where his head is at in terms of confidence going in. He has talked about the anxiety that he had when he went in and his first appearance in 2018. That's been his only appearance. And just his game was like in the toilet at the time. He had won the John Deere the year before, but nothing else after that. He seemed pretty confident going. He's playing practice rounds with Phil.
That's a note. I wonder how he swung that, but shout out Mike Kim. Shout out Mike Kim.
Yeah, I don't think that Michael Kim's going to win the Masters, but the way that his game has been stacking up, he hits the draw off the tee. The long irons have been good. He's been the best chipper in the world over in the course of 2025 since he took one lesson from Joe Mayo. We talked about that as well.
Mayo.
I could see him doing well.
Yeah, I mean, he's confident right now. He knows that he can stack up and, simply make cuts and post a T20, which would be a win for Mike Kim, I think. I think that'd be really solid for him in this Masters if he can flirt with a T15 finish. So, yeah, I have nothing poorly to say about Mike Kim. I think he's a good positional bet more than anything.
Yeah, so at Bay Hill, he was top 5 against the signature field. He was top 15 at Torrey Pines.
Crazy.
Weirdly, the courses that you would think of where you would need to play well in advance of the Masters against good fields. He has actually done that. It's the other tournaments where he really has, and he just played 8 weeks in a row, too, and you could see it kind of easing down. But the approach play's been great, the chipping's been great, the putting's been good, and he's another one like Akshay. He's just hitting fairways.
Yeah, if hitting fairways is not going to do you wrong no matter what golf course you're on. So that's always a good note from Mike Kim.
Group of 4, Max Grazerman, debutant, Nikolai Højgaard, who was actually pretty good in his debut last year, Davis Thompson, and Maverick McNeely. Any love for any of these guys, or are they pure passes?
I will bet and talk highly of the Højgaards in perpetuity. Not one of them. They cannot play well at the same time. But if you bet both of them around triple digits for the rest of their career, you will retire in a few years, whenever, no matter how much you put on them, because they will win. They are top 10 players in the world when they are clicking. It's just a matter of when it happens. And they're not playing good right now, but it will happen. I'm in on the Højgaards for the rest of their careers.
I've been betting Nikolai over and over because Rasmus's odds were about 1/3 of what Nikolai's were. So I was they're basically the same guy. So I'm just going to bet Nikolai. Nikolai was previously the better player. Obviously, Rasmus won the Euro Tour last year, so he gets his advancement. He gets into this field. But Nikolai showed some life. I do feel like this is the better course for Nikolai because dude just sprays it off the tee. You need him at a course where he can hit it anywhere.
Yeah, it's really funny to watch him off the tee sometimes because he just sends it, and it just sometimes does not end up in the right spots. But I really do worry about his putting right now. But it's triple digits on a guy who has beaten Rory, Rahm, Viktor at all of their primes 2 years ago. I can do it. I don't think there's work. And he almost won here. Didn't almost win, but played super well. It's Nikolai will win a major in his career.
2 more players. One is a man who has not missed a cut at Augusta in 15 years, although his performance so far this year has been very, very bad. It's Adam Scott.
Adam Scott at Augusta, Adam Scott in the majors, I think is a good bet this year, this next 2 years. I think he cares about them. I don't think he's going to win one, but I'm always high on Adam Scott going to the majors, and I probably shouldn't be because it doesn't really work out. But DFS maybe, positional, What's your Adam Scott take? Because I don't know, you might like him more than I do.
Yeah, he was top 10 at Pebble. He was top 10 at Bay Hill, so that's not bad. All right, sorry, that was Justin Rose that I was looking at. I was going to say I like Justin Rose more than I like Adam Scott. I like Justin Rose for first round leader.
Oh, he was the first round leader of the year. Willie Z almost won, I think, right?
Yeah, he's popped up on the first page of the leaderboard at a bunch of majors recently. He has hot first rounds in majors. Don't know why. And his year's been going. Well, he has a bunch of missed cuts and a bunch of top tens. And he missed the cut at the Players, but other than that, all of his top tens have been in like signature events at tough courses versus, the Genesis he missed, at Farmers he missed. It's just weird. Like, he was runner-up at the Open last year. He's a really strange player at this point of his career. Like, this or the Open are his only shots that are left. I mean, he has the U.S. Open, but that was, 12 years ago now? His game is now Masters, basically, or bust.
Yeah, I think Justin Rose has a far better chance to win next week than he does this week, as crazy as it sounds, opposed to, like, the Masters versus the Valero. I just think he was playing so well at Troon out of nowhere, so I'm down for Rosie in a big spot.
This is the last player to talk about. I've mentioned his name 3 or 4 times. It is Sergio Garcia. He is now 100-1. I have him at 175-1. You might be able to find even bigger numbers out there on him. You might find shorter numbers. It's really tough to say how the market is judging Sergio right now. His past 3 Masters have not been good. Miscut, 23rd. But he comes in with some fire on LIV, and fire in his belly to make this European Ryder Cup team. 32nd, 1st, 18th, 6th, and 1st on LIV in his past 5 starts. The ball striking is elite again. We know he can navigate himself around here, around the greens, on the greens, although that's never really been the strength of his game. The elite ball striking is back, at least for the moment. I don't know if it can sustain itself, but if everyone is going to give Niemann his flowers and call him 27-1 because you believe in the future of him, well, he's not playing all that much better than Sergio on the same tour right now, and you can get the other guy for 7 times the odds, who's won here before.
Yeah, I mean, Sergio probably will retire as a top 10 generational striper of all time. You're never going to have to sell anyone on the ball striking. I think I'm with you in terms of, like, he'll play well, but I'm going to tee you up. What else do you love about the Sergio case? Because you seem to be really sell me on Sergio outside of just the striping.
It's the striping and the odds. Like, when we take a look at some of the guys that are above him, and that's all we can do is compare what a player's odds are to another player. So, for example, Sergio right now, 125-1. Dustin Johnson right now, 80-1. Like, that doesn't even make sense.
Right. Makes no sense. No, it doesn't.
Like,
and a lot of times when it doesn't make sense, we're smarter than in those situations, and it works.
Max Grazerman has shorter odds than Sergio Garcia.
That's funny.
Like,
just Max Homa.
Yeah, I mean, he's right around. So Sergio has the same odds as Chris Kirk, Nick Taylor, Keegan Bradley, Adam Hadwin, who I don't even think is in the field. Phil, he's right. He's just ahead of Phil.
Yeah, that is a blatant misprice. You're right. It's a misprice.
So he should be like the guys that I mentioned earlier, like Akshay, Bobby Mack, and Sergio are my 3 bets. I would expect them to be in like the 65 range, maybe even up to 50 if they get popular. I just found it really strange just because it's happening on LIV doesn't mean it's not happening.
Yeah, I'm a LIV guy. Like, I watch LIV, I bet LIV, I take it somewhat seriously, and he's playing good golf. Like, good golf is good golf, and he's doing that. So I'm with you.
Is there any other player that we have not mentioned that you do want to give a special shout out to that is on your radar for something this week?
I wish Nick Dunlap didn't have a girlfriend, because if he didn't, he'd have a good chance to at least finish inside the top 20. But outside of that, no one really that I really need to note.
Harman, 3 consecutive missed cuts at the Masters. That's pretty good.
Solo leader at Valero, by the way, right now.
Good for him.
4 under through 9.
Good for him. He can fuck off. Billy Ho. Dietrich is someone I could see playing well at the Masters. He's performed. Yeah. He has 3 consecutive top 20s in majors coming in, which is not something you would expect from Thomas Dietrich.
Yeah, a pure driver putter, which it could work. Like, he could just give himself so many options and then make a ton of putts. Yeah, Dietrich. I'm a Dietrich guy. I love Dietrich. I lost so much money on Thomas Dietrich. You'll never have to sell me on Dietrich. What about Nico Etch? Generational striper if he has a good lie in the fairway. And he'll get them here.
He will, and he's very good on the greens as well. He's just not long enough.
No, he's not long enough. He's putting beyond belief. Oh, my God. Did not notice how good he was putting.
Yeah.
Wow.
The other one, I mean, Aaron Rai, Taylor Pendrith, Ben An. I just want to see these guys. Ben An played really well last year at Augusta. I just want to see how Aaron Rai gets into the mix this time around. Pendrith really does strike me as
Hendrick can't trip right now.
No, I mean, he's just...
But he's hitting it well, though.
Yeah, but he just strikes me as, we get to break it down, the PGA Championship US Open type player, not Masters.
For sure. I'm with you there.
Almost all Canadians outside of like Mike Weir and Adam Hadwin are better suited for all of like the bomb and gouge type places rather than anything with touch and feel, which makes absolutely no sense to me. Being a Canadian and knowing that you can golf 8 months a year, I mean, maybe 10 if you live in Vancouver, but that means the only thing that you can really practice is your chipping and putting, yet no golfers in Canada are good at chipping and putting.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I've been caddying for this kid down in Florida at like some pre-Qs. He's Canadian. He lives up in Calgary, and he is just not great on the greens, but he hits the ball so well. I was like, all right, like do your thing, bro.
Maybe at the cold weather. Maybe since simulators have come into such fashion over the past 20 years, that all of the cold weather countries that produce good golfers are just pure flushers now. Like this,
I guess so. I mean, it's not a bad thing to be good at.
like the Scandinavians. I mean, you can look at Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. Hell, even Wacky Välimäki from Finland, if you really want to. That none of these guys possess elite short games.
No, and that's something that I'll send you after the show. But over at Vincerix, we have the thing called the Viking Cup, which we took a liking and realized how many Scandinavians and Nordics are so good at golf, and they can play golf outside for like 3 weeks a year. And we're like, how are these guys so amazing? So I'll send you the Viking Cup standings. You'll take a nice liking to that.
I actually saw it yesterday when I was scanning through Twitter. I thought it was pretty funny. What we need to do is we need to divvy up more of like we need to get rid of the President's Cup because I just went to the President's Cup. It was a lot of fun. It sucks. So what we need to do is instead we have the Ryder Cup once every 2 years. We'll have Europe versus the USA. But outside of that, we should have more of a different tournament. We'll just we'll have the East Asian team where Korea and put them with the Australians. You have Australia, New Zealand, China, South Korea, Japan. You know, if Kiradesh wants to play from Thailand, he can be into it too. Or you keep like New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, and Canada together and be like part of Commonwealth, part of Dutch, and you like throw all those guys together. Because I think the Canadians would actually work better with the Vikings in the Nordic countries. Like that makes more sense geographically for like season of year. And then you have like 4 separate teams from around the world who can play against each other.
No, that would be lovely. And our take was just that the Viking countries secede from the Ryder Cup and have their own like 2-year thing. But if you take it one step further and just make it like kind of like a World Cup every X amount of years, I think we're onto something. We need some backers because this idea that we've been brewing for so long, I think you're our segue. We can get some maybe Spotify. Spotify is a Nordic company, so we need them on the horn to give us $1 billion and make this happen.
It wouldn't be a bad idea. And I say, we're not talking about getting rid of the Ryder Cup. We're just talking about getting rid of the President's
No.
The non-competitive President's Cup.
Yeah, we need to do it. We need to find some way to make this happen.
Phil, top 20? If you've been watching LIV, you've been seeing Phil play pretty well.
Oh, actually, I meant to ask you this question on Phil because going into LIV Hong Kong, I bet Phil 500 to 1, and I noticed you did too. I saw that his driving accuracy was generational going into the week, or going into that week because he's generally a bomber, but he's toned it back. And I was like, all right, let's bet Phil at LIV Hong Kong. And I thought I was the man. I was like, yeah, I'm the only one on this. Then I see Pat motherfucking Mayo on LIV.
So
Phil, what got you on him?
It was a really small sample. So if you go into the back end of LIV, you can actually get their ball striking stats and their strokes gain data. They weirdly don't make it like super public, but I don't know why. It's LIV. That's just something they do that makes no sense. But he had only played 2 rounds. He skipped the first LIV event, and then he came in to play, I forget where it was, the second Australian event. And his ball striking was off the charts good. And dude did not make a putt whatsoever. I was like, if Phil is striking it this well, I do have confidence that Phil will chip and putt again. If there's one thing I think I can figure out, it's that. I'd have more worries that the accuracy goes away rather than the chipping and putting has just mysteriously vanished over time. Guys have bad weeks. It happens all the time. He can just come back with the spike week. So I bet him 600 to 1 with a top 5 each way. And that each way, the top 5 paid 125 to 1. So I cashed big on Phil with his 3rd place finish. And he always makes the cut at Augusta. A top 20, top 10 isn't crazy to think. He came top 10 2 years ago.
No. And not many people want the top 10 and want the mix more than Phil. Like, he's going to give it his all, which is all you can ask for from their guys. I hate when guys pack it in. Phil will want it. Phil will not pack it in.
Well, that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. I hope you are now prepared as we have talked through every player who matters outside of Keegan Bradley, who's not going to win the Masters anyway, that you need to come for the following week. What do you have going on for your Masters coverage over the next week and 10 days or so?
Yeah, definitely check us out over at Vincerix_golf, our website, vincerix.com. You're going to get the most unique betting preview, golf preview that you're going to get, because anyone can make a podcast and only few can do it like you. We kind of taking that next step and trying to be different. We're on the grounds. We're giving you that real-time insight, as much as the data, as much as we use AI. Just another thing to keep an eye on and give you a look at some guys. So drop a comment on this show below. Drop a comment on our stuff. Who do you want to see from me at Augusta? Give you a nice little report on him on the golf course. So yeah, it's Matt_Gannon on Twitter and Vincerix_golf on Twitter as well.
Yeah, you can find both those in the description right now, as you can find my 2 separate sets of giveaways for the Masters, one for a $5,000 free all-expense paid trip to Toronto for the Canadian Open and the PME Live show that we're doing, and then 5 separate prizes of $200 of straight cash. FantasyNational.com/Mayo to get the Masters promo of 20% off. Code Mayo at Underdog right now to get that deposit bonus of up to $1,000, a free Bryson pick, a free guaranteed winner for the Masters, and then you'll have all of the other drafts that you can do along with the props pick'em as well, okay? I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!